Hello, I'm Dena Whalen, the Vicar of Church of the Advocate. And we'll begin by reading this past Sunday's Gospel together and just have a short reflection. So from the 18th chapter of Matthew, beginning with the 15th verse, Jesus says, "If another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. If the member listens to you, you have regained that one. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others along with you, so that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If the member refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you, if 2 of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them." When this reading is heard, I expect that the ears of many naturally latch on to phrases like "sins against you," or "point out the fault," or "let such a one be as a Gentile or a tax collector," which means an outsider. We see this all the time. One group setting the boundaries of what it means to be in, and then self-righteously going about judging who should be out. As David Henson highlighted for us in his sermon on Sunday, perhaps the word we need to pay attention to in this passage, and that is repeated several times, is the word listen. That's the first word in the Benedictine rule. Listen. When we listen with an open heart, and when we are listened to by another's open heart, we and our relationships can be changed, strengthened, sanctified. Within the larger context of this passage, there are other words of Jesus that weigh in. Just before this passage, Jesus says, "Don't be a stumbling block to anyone with less power, less standing, who is newer in the faith than you." And he also says, "Go after that lost one, the weak one, like a shepherd who leaves the 99 sheep who are safely within the fold and goes out to find the one sheep who has gone astray." And just after this passage, Jesus says, "Forgive, forgive, forgive," again and again and again. This past Sunday, we at Church of the Advocate resumed our worship together in person. We started out small. It was only our clergy, staff members, our crew members, and volunteers, and a few others who listened from outside the gate of Trinity's chapel courtyard. From this gospel passage, we focused on the dynamic of binding and loosing. I presented that to be in true accord with one another and in sync with God so that earth and heaven are in agreement, it is love and love alone by which we can be bound together. In everything else, we must, by God's grace, strive to be loosened, to be bound to another person by judgment or jealousy, or competition or control, or neediness and insecurity, or fear, is to cause our relationships to be out of balance, out of sort, causes our lives to be out of sync with God, causes earth to be out of sync with heaven. When I invited dialogue, one man said that in his process of recovery, he was doing the hard work of letting loose of the things that trigger his addiction, and that he was working to let loose of that hurtful past by learning to forgive, and that each day, one day at a time, he was wanting to walk on a path that was lit only by God's love. The more we risk letting go of anything less than love, the more freedom we have to be bound, to be held, to be strengthened by God and by Jesus, who calls us with him to walk the way of love.